The hull registered 44%, and Dan Cole heard the ship sing. Not metal groaning, something underneath that. A hum through the deck plating like a struck bell that hadn't finished deciding what note to hold. 15 warships had just unloaded everything they had at once, all their fire converging into the same half-second, and the number on Cole's readout was still falling. He watched it the way you watch water rising past a mark you drew yourself, uncertain whether the mark meant anything at all. Then the hum cut off, the number climbed. To understand how a warship ended up here, alone, gutted, and somehow winning, you have to go back 2 hours, to the moment Fleet Prime Voss looked at a dead man's ship and felt something he hadn't budgeted for that morning: doubt. 17 vessels of the KE battle fleet held position around a human cruiser that would not sink. Voss had watched 46 confirmed hits register on its hull, more than enough, by every figure his war college had ever given him, to have opened that ship to vacuum 3 times over. It was still there. Not moving, not answering hails, its drive ports dark. Then his sensor officer, a young man named Gret, said the word 62 twice before Voss made him say it a third time. 62% hull integrity, on a ship that should have been a debris field. Voss opened a channel. The voice that answered was unhurried, almost bored, a man checking an item off a list. Fleet Prime, I was wondering when you would call. Captain Owen Marsh had a service file 11 engagements long, each one flagged with the kind of bureaucratic language reserved for outcomes nobody could explain through proper channels. Voss read those flags differently now than he had that morning. Your escorts are gone, Voss told him. You're surrounded, disabled, 9 hours from support. Surrender, and I'll see it's done with honor. Generous, Marsh said. Here's mine. Pull back 20,000 kilometers. Give me your staging coordinates in the Creole corridor, or I finish what I'm about to start. Voss felt the doubt widen into something colder. What exactly are you about to start? Depends which one you pick. That was when Gret made a sound with no word in it, the sound of an instrument reporting something the mind hasn't caught up to yet. Fleet Prime. Its engines are coming back online, all of them. On the display, the impact craters scarring that hull were shrinking, not healing, compacting, as if the wounds were being folded back into the material itself. Voss ran a spectral scan and got nothing his database recognized. Not alloy, not composite, not anything with a name. 60 seconds, Fleet Prime, Marsh said. After that, this gets complicated. Voss held his fire. He needed to understand what he was fighting before he fought it again, and some part of him already suspected he was several moves behind. His scholar, a sleep-starved analyst named Dren, spent the next hour proving him right. Standard hull plating absorbed maybe a fifth of an incoming strike and shed the rest as heat and force. This hull was keeping 88% of every hit and getting stronger for it. It doesn't resist the damage, Dren said, testing the words as he said them. It processes it. Every strike compresses the lattice further. We made it stronger, said the tactical officer beside him, by 46 shots worth. Aboard the human ship, Lieutenant Nora Blake watched the KE fleet's engine signatures and waited for the pattern that meant they were about to fire again. Below decks, Cole ran the same diagnostic on the integration nodes for the third time, though he already knew what it would say. The system that stored all that violence had been Dr. Kate Wren's obsession for over a decade. He still remembered her taking a hammer to the first working sample and watching the dent fill itself back in, denser than before. There, she'd said, like she'd been waiting years to say it. Voss made his mistake in small pieces. Dren sent him an urgent flag. Do not engage again, 11 seconds before word came back that 8 reinforcement ships were 40 minutes out. Voss let them come anyway. When they arrived and the fleet moved to retighten its circle, Marsh finally stood from his chair. Dan. Ready, Cole answered. Nora, show them something new. Blake had been waiting nearly a year for that sentence. She opened a targeting grid that had no listed weapon behind it, officially just structural architecture, energy routing, nothing a KE sensor would flag as a threat. Functionally, a gun with no barrel, firing from the same skin that had been swallowing their shots for the last hour. 2 KE warships stopped existing. No warning, no muzzle flash their systems could trace. The fleet's formation came apart on instinct. Voss held the rest from a full retreat with 4 words, then made his last mistake. A saturation strike, everything at once, meant to overload whatever was catching it. That's the strike that dropped the hull to 44%. That's the hum Cole heard through the floor. It's also the strike that filled the tanks past 90. "We're full," Cole said. Blake didn't wait to be told twice. The release came from every surface of the hull at once. 4 KE warships gone outright, 3 more dark and drifting. Voss survived only because his flagship sat at the formation's edge, and he found himself staring at the wreckage of his own command with nothing useful left to order. "You needed us to shoot you," he said, when the channel opened again. "Yes," Marsh said. "One more time if you're offering." Voss didn't answer that. He was already reaching for a warning he'd spend the rest of the war trying to make someone believe. Before he could send it, a second message reached the Iron Patience, an assault fleet, 32 ships, 4 hours out from a research colony called Ellery Station. 40,000 people, no military assets. Marsh looked at his own numbers, a hull barely past 3/4, reserves gutted by the release he'd just fired. He set course anyway and asked Fleet Command for one favor on the way: get that fleet shooting at him before the real fight started, if they could arrange it. The assault fleet's commander, a man named Horn, had received Voss's warning 40 minutes earlier and filed it exactly where career officers file reports that don't match their models. He held course for the colony. When the Iron Patience intercepted him 9 minutes ahead of engagement range, Marsh made the offer plain. "Open fire on me. 15 minutes, whatever yield you like. I won't move and I won't return it. After that you can decide with better numbers than you have now." Horn had 32 ships and nothing to lose from 15 idle minutes. He gave the order, and for a quarter of an hour every gun in his fleet found the same drifting target and did not stop. Cole watched the readout climb through the burn, 68, 79, 88, the ship growing harder to kill with every second it was being killed. At the 14-minute mark, the nodes crossed 85%. At 15, Marsh said, quiet and almost polite, "That's enough, I think. Thank you." The fire stopped. Horn's own sensors told him what Voss's warning hadn't managed to. A ship denser than when the barrage began, sitting between his fleet and a station full of people, loaded now with everything his own guns had just handed it. "You came to defend a colony," Horn said slowly, "with one ship." Marsh let the silence sit a second before he answered. "It's what showed up on time." Horn stared at the numbers a long moment, thought about the 3 words Voss had never once used in 30 years of service: be very careful, and pulled his fleet back. He filed it as a reposition. It held his ships clear of Ellery for 4 hours, until the relief force arrived and finally stood the Iron Patience down. Captain Diane Worth's voice came through tired and careful. "How's the ship, Owen?" "90% integrity," Cole answered before Marsh could. "Better than when we left port." Worth was quiet. "They shot at you that much?" "Quite a bit," Marsh said, and let the channel close on it. Dren's final report went into the archive months later, and the line his superiors argued over for years was the smallest one in it: that a species which builds its strongest weapon to run on being attacked has thought about suffering in ways the rest of the galaxy hadn't yet had reason to. Cole never read that report. He was busy that night with the last check of the drift home, watching the integration nodes power down to standby for the first time in 11 months. The light on the panel easing from a hard, steady white to something almost soft, like a breath finally let go after being held 2 hours too long.